Salutations, my friends, I'm TheMightyMander, and welcome to a very, very special video. We are going to be going over my favorite video game of all time. I know I'm doing it a little bit early on the channel, but still...
Congratulations, you have been selected.
Oh, hell yeah! Did I win a new washing machine? I need one of those.
To save the world.
Oh, damn it, man. Me? I can't save the world. I'm not even sure if I like the world.
Too bad. My programming specifically states no givesy backsies.
Alright, fine. You want me to save the world? Just tell me how to do it. I'll be your reluctant hero archetype for the day.
The appropriate information is in the disc that has been provided to you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too, you unknown digital expository excuse for a stilted narrative motherfucker. So, 007 Agent Under Fire. I'm not gonna lie, the prospects don't look too good for this game. I mean, check it out. It looks like even James Bond himself sent his body double to stand in for him on the cover, and they bathed him in shadow to cover it up or something. I guess the real James Bond had more important things to do, like get blasted on martinis and sexually assault hotel masseuses. Am I right, Mr. Connery?
I think it's absolutely right.
So, how exactly this game is gonna help me save the world, I have no idea. But we're gonna play it. So let's get started. Okay, so I wanted to play this game, one, because it's a massive nostalgia trip for me. I used to play this game when I was younger, and also because now that we've got one game under our belt that's basically the benchmark for how good a first-person shooter can be, it's time to put another game to the test and see how it stacks up. This game, weirdly, was developed and published by EA, of course with MGM being given a distributor credit because at that time they'd had the character of James Bond by the balls since the 1960s. Released in 2001, this is one of several shooters based on the famous fictitious secret agent, and the first of a trilogy of PS2 games with their own unique story arcs set in the world of, but unrelated to, the plots of the films. Obviously, you had games like GoldenEye 64 and the lesser played The World Is Not Enough, which were adaptations of the films, but Agent Under Fire, Nightfire, and Everything or Nothing were original stories, the latter two of which actually featured the voices and likenesses of Pierce Brosnan and other actors of the films. Everything or Nothing even got Willem Dafoe to be a completely original villain. Willem f***ing Dafoe. That's awesome!
Kinda makes me feel like river dancing.
And back in the early 2000s, I can't deny that the sensation of being thrown into the shoes of the world's greatest secret agent with any one of these games was definitely exciting. So what is not Pierce Brosnan up to in this globe-trotting romp of a game? I played this game a lot as a kid and never really bothered to learn the plot. Apparently Bond is investigating a corporation called Identicon, which is a botanical research firm that is also a front for a weapons smuggling ring, because of course it is. Turns out they're also planning something sinister involving cloning some world leaders and presidents, and you've got to track down a case full of blood vials which contain the blood of said world leaders, and blah 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 blah, MacGuffin, ex machina. The plot is pretty needlessly complicated, so paying close attention to it is almost optional. Like, no one really remembers what Goldfinger's plan was, just that he was a villain up to some sinister shit and James Bond had to stop him. And if you go back and watch, Goldfinger's plan is f***ing stupid. They all are. But if you do pay close attention to the plot, the campiness of it is pretty entertaining. Your villains here are this chick called Malprave and this goofy-looking personification of a Rogaine ad over here named Nigel Bloch. And what I'll say about Nigel Bloch is that he has one of the best goofy evil laughs I've ever heard in a game. And his taunt game is on point. I think it's level 8 or something. That shit follows you around all the way to the end. Every 10 seconds, it's like, "You're a dead man, Mr. Bond. Come on, let's go, Bond." Better knock that shit off, Nigel, or you're gonna get these hands. You don't want that judo chop, son. You know, just for that, I'm gonna refer to you for the rest of the video as Nigel Thornberry and nothing but.
Smashing!
But for being as conventional as it is, gunplay is actually pretty fun in this game. The sensitivity for moving and aiming is really high, but you've got an auto-aim feature which really helps out. Some might argue it makes it too easy, but playing this game for difficulty isn't really the way to get the most out of it. At least to me, anyway. On higher difficulties, unless you're a dedicated completionist, it seems like it would be much more frustrating than it's worth. It's much better as a run-and-gun type situation in my experience. It borrows an element or two from GoldenEye, namely the free aim mechanic that lets you pick precise shots. So if auto aim isn't your style, you can use this more often. And this comes in handy because the default control scheme in this game is It stands to reason that in an FPS controlled by the sticks, one stick moves you and the other moves the camera. But in this game, it's all divided up. Moving the left stick forward and back moves you like it should, but moving it left or right moves the camera left or right, and it's vice versa on the other stick. Moving up and down pans the camera, left or right makes you strafe. Who the f*** thought this was a good idea? It doesn't sound all that bad in concept, but it's so f***ing weird and wonky in execution. And it made my foray through the first level way harder than it needed to be until I went back to the main menu and figured out that you can change it to a more traditional setup. Movement is surprisingly fast-paced in this game. Based on the frequency of his footsteps, which you can hear, James Bond must be under the influence of a hearty intake of methamphetamine at all times, because he is at a full sprint 100% of the time. Even more so when you go backwards. My man, you gotta chill out. You're supposed to be a sneaky, stealthy, do it under the radar kind of guy. You gotta lay off the Red Bull. I think this version of James Bond might have moved past his old habit of vodka martinis shaken not stirred and started pounding down Vegas bombs before every mission. I can't argue with the results, but I think the methods leave something to be desired for a covert spy. So after you beat the first level, you escape with the lovely CIA agent lady named Zoe Nightshade that you rescued, and have a sort of on-rails vehicle section where you have to shoot down choppers and Hong Kong gangsters and what have you. There's two of these throughout the game, one here where you're driving through the streets of Hong Kong, and another later where you're riding this little underwater bumper car transport thing through a secret base, chasing Nigel Thornberry around over here.
Oh, Marianne, quickly!
Now, if we could just take a quick sidebar here, I've got a stray observation involving these on-rail missions, because the weapons you get in the vehicle sections are only seen in the vehicle sections. You've got this AK-style assault rifle, a shotgun, and a rocket launcher. And similar weapons all exist in the rest of the game, but they're all slightly different in one way or another. The AK assault rifle has a different name and model and a slower fire rate. The shotgun is completely different and far less detailed in the vehicle sections for some reason. And the rocket launcher looks like a potato gun. What I get from this is that maybe these vehicle sections and the regular on-foot missions were developed by different teams. They almost feel like entirely different games, but maybe this is due to the frame rates being different? The regular game seems to run at 60, while these sections and the other driving levels seem to run at 30. Maybe I'm overanalyzing here, maybe these differences don't mean much, but I always thought it was strange that these were so different, because looking at it now, it's clear that they had formed very separate, distinct memories in my head over the years. But I digress, let's get back to it. Let's see if we can iron out some of the details in this game's plot. Like I said, 007 gets embroiled in a scheme to take over the world, the culprit behind which is the aforementioned Identicon in tandem with Malprave Industries, run by Adrian Malprave. Is her name actually Adrian? I don't even fucking remember. And to be honest, I have no idea what Malprave does. It doesn't even say on the Wikipedia page for the game. Let's just say they make fucking chocolate or something since they're based in Switzerland. That's not racist or anything. So the world's most malevolent chocolate company plans to clone a number of world leaders, including the German Chancellor, UK Prime Minister, and the French and US presidents, and replace the real leaders with their doppelgangers in order to take over the world. Oh my god, this plot is so stupid. Wrapped up in this also is Zoe Nightshade, the CIA operative who I mentioned before, who you rescue in the first mission. Unfortunately though, she falls victim to the curse of the doomed Bond girl and dies right after the second mission. But don't worry, because the world's greatest secret agent did absolutely all he could to save her when a leather-clad vixen called the Jackal in a limo with a rocket launcher shows up. Jesus Christ, man. Were there not 1,000,005 things you could have done there other than exactly what you just did? Did I not just go through an entire mission with a rocket launcher and a shotgun in my hands, leveling the entire city of Hong Kong? Would those maybe not have come in handy just then? But no, let me just take this opportunity to get into my jujitsu fighting stance and do nothing while you murder my new hot girlfriend. It's all good. Just take your time. I'll wait. Fear not, though. The Jackal gets what's coming to her later in the game.
Bond, did you encounter the Jackal? What happened?
She's fallen for me.
You know, in a lot of ways, not the least among which is the one-liners like that one, this game is pretty faithful to the characterization of James Bond. You know, the coolness part, not the ambiguous rapiness of the 1960s part. In every mission, you've got a certain number of Bond moves, which reward you for acting as though you are the world's greatest secret agent. These Bond moves really help give each mission a sense of variety, and in addition to helping you... In addition to helping you progress in most cases, they're also satisfying to pull off and make for a fun little collectible to look for at each level, giving them each an extra layer of replay value. And of course, from a character perspective, James Bond is just as much of a chauvinistic asshole as he ever was. Well, maybe not just as much, but pretty close. But here, it's a little more tongue-in-cheek, going along with the less serious tone this game sets with its slightly lower production value than most Bond vehicles. It emulates a Bond film without ever actually reaching quite the same level. For example, whenever the odd female character comes along, you get an exchange like this.
I'm afraid your interview with Ms. Malprave has been delayed. In the meantime, you can enjoy the view.
I already am.
You know what's especially weird about that particular exchange? That's actually the only time either of those characters ever appear in this game. You know, you might expect some kind of badass fight with them later in the game because, you know, they're twins and they work for the villain, and the fact that a few games I've played in the past have used twin characters as a penultimate boss. Well, nope! They are literally just there as a delivery mechanism for a butt joke. I'm surprised they even have names, but, you know, if you look at their desks in-game, they do, for some reason. So those Bond moves I mentioned can include a wide variety of actions, from using a gadget to reach a certain area, finding a hidden weapon like a sniper or rocket launcher, taking out a large number of enemies using a special explosive, sniping a helicopter pilot instead of using a mounted machine gun to blow it up, finding a special way to kill a boss enemy like I mentioned before with the Jackal, and many, many more. And they give you a snippet of that famous James Bond theme whenever you perform one, that and sometimes come with a one-liner to boot. Definitely one of my favorite parts of the game. There are 12 missions in this game's campaign, and completing them gives you a score based on how much damage you took, how much time it took to complete, how many Bond moves you found, and more. Getting a high enough score gets you a gold medal, which nets you a bonus gameplay modifier, anything from a golden version of the default pistol that does more damage, to unlimited missiles in driving missions, to extended clips, and more. My personal favorite has to be the replacement of the cars in the driving sections with the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me. Is that what movie it's from? What f***ing movie was this from? Having cars from the movies appear in the game as part of the plot, especially the Aston Martin DB5, is cool enough. But the Esprit may be my personal favorite of the Bond cars, so having it as a bonus in both of the driving missions in this game is a fantastic reward. Though, unfortunately, it cannot go underwater. Maybe it could, but sadly there are no opportunities to do so. Also, you get a variety of Q gadgets over the course of this game, which is odd considering that Q isn't even in this game, it's actually R. You get a Q claw, Q remote, Q laser, Q decryptor, among other things, and all those that I just mentioned look like they're hidden in cell phones? Which begs the question, are these gadgets all contained within the same phone? Or when you switch between them, are you actually pulling out 6 different phones, each with different gadgets? It's a minor detail, but I can't get the mental picture out of my head of James Bond fumbling with a bunch of cell phones, trying to find the one with the laser on it while bullets are flying all over the place. So later in the game, after finding out the location of Identicon's secret base, an underwater cloning facility underneath an oil rig in the South China Sea, raiding said base, shooting everyone in sight, and sending Nigel Thornberry to a fiery doom, you find out that Zoe Nightshade is not actually dead because the one killed by the Jackal earlier was actually a clone made by Identicon and Malprave to infiltrate the CIA, and the missile fired by the Jackal was meant for Bond. Man, the Jackal was an incredibly unobservant woman, not to mention a terrible shot. You come across the real Zoe after doom-guying your way through the cloning facility known as Poseidon, and you're then informed that a G7 World Summit is taking place on a battleship in the Mediterranean, and the game, perhaps fearing that it's starting to get lost in a sea of cloning jibber-jabber and convoluted, pointless take-over-the-world plots, it throws this in your face.
We received a signal from someone on the ship. A nuclear warhead on board has been armed. You must disarm that bomb.
Yes, indeed, there is a nuke on the boat. Somehow, some way, Malprave managed to sneak a nuclear warhead onto a warship in the Mediterranean on which a G7 World Leader Summit is taking place. Man, Malprave, my homie, you sure you even need these clones? You already seem like you're on that New World Order wave. This is some global domineering shit here. Your world domination budget may be misallocated. So what happens next is exactly what you would think would happen. You foil Malprave's plan to detonate the nuke, but it turns out that she's already kidnapped the world leaders and taken them to her headquarters in Switzerland, and the final mission in the game has you rescuing all the world leaders and taking down Malprave once and for all. It culminates in a boss fight with
smashing.
Oh no, Nigel Thornberry wasn't actually dead. I'm so surprised, except I'm not because I'm not an idiot. So blam, 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 shooty, shooty, McShooty, pump the guy full of enough rounds to supply several armed platoons. You then end up in the large atrium where you begun the mission earlier in the game where you made the butt joke about the two mysterious Asian twins. And this seems like a huge climactic boss fight, and I remember it taking myself and my brother dozens of tries back in the day, but that's just because it doesn't tell you what to do, and if you wait too long, you fall into the f***ing floor and then die. And you have to start the mission all over again. All you gotta do is shoot Nigel Thornberry with the rocket launcher, and then you got your Action Man Dan dive out the window, Zoe Ex Machina's the crap out of you, and ba-da-ba-da, you save the world. So that was 007 Agent Under Fire. And if I'm being honest here, I had been planning on covering this game in a video for a while, and I was gonna make some kind of agent under budget or underfunded or some other kind of lol bad game joke in the title and spend the entire time goofing on the game for how bad it is. And yeah, the story is pretty bad. It's basically a knockoff of itself. It's got all the paint-by-numbers story beats of a James Bond flick with the campy villains, the Bond girl, the globetrotting and secret bases, and the plots to take over the world. But obviously it's never going to be as memorable as something like GoldenEye, for example. It's neither as iconic as GoldenEye 64, nor as entertaining as the movie. As far as story quality goes, it's more closely aligned with something like Die Another Day, which I think says more about the quality of that movie than it does this game. But other than that, the game is actually surprisingly good. The gameplay itself is a lot of fun. Sure, it's a bit rough around the edges, but the weapons are mostly fun to use, the levels are replayable and very rewarding, and for a licensed property, it's surprisingly faithful to its source material in most of the right ways. With the Bond moves, the driving levels with the gadget-filled cars reminiscent of the movies, the tank sequence which is straight out of GoldenEye, really the only thing missing is the likenesses of the actors, but they got pretty decent imitators for Pierce Brosnan and Judi Dench, and because it's not necessarily assumed that these are those versions of those characters, it's a pretty easy detail to just let pass. I may be blinded by nostalgia a little bit, but overall I think this is actually a pretty decent shooter, and if you like the property of James Bond and can appreciate a campy, globe-trotting adventure, you might want to consider picking up a used copy. Wait, so now that I'm finished, how was me playing this game supposed to help me save the world at all? I kind of lost track of that, didn't I?
Warning. Thermonuclear annihilation imminent. Please assume fetal position and mentally prepare yourself for your doom.
Oh. I think I was supposed to be doing something else this whole time. Well, I guess that's why you don't outsource your saving the world projects to amateur YouTubers who have no idea what they're doing. Hey everybody, it's Mander here. Thanks for watching this video. This one took a while, a little longer than I wanted it to, but hey, you know, school happened and then winter break happened and then I got my wisdom teeth out, which is why I sound real weird. I'm still recovering from that surgery, so that's fun. But hey, more content's on the way. Stick around tuned to the channel. And hey, go check out TheMightyMander.com. That's my new website that I just launched. It's a place, you know, where I can just show off some of the my personal favorite videos that I've made here on the channel. And also do something a little bit different, which is I'm starting writing like actual blog posts and stuff about different games, you know, editorials about different games that don't really fit into the content of one of my videos. So the first one I've done is on Super Mario Odyssey, so if you want to head over there and check that out. Hope you all have a magnificent day. I'll see you all soon. Love you all. Thanks, bye.